Hello and welcome to the session on future-proofing your content with Semantic AI in Tridion. So it's very nice to be here again. It's been, let's see, I've got the t-shirt now from TDS 18 as it was. So now this is my third year, I think, at an event like this. Very nice to be here again. Quickly, because I've introduced myself before, I think people know us, but Director of Product Management for Tridion Docs. But also done some very interesting work with my colleagues Arno and Philippe and many others over the last really couple of years on this area of semantic AI. It's something I was lucky enough to have some experience in from my prior kind of consulting experience. So something else, not just under the Tridion Docs banner, but something crossing the whole of Tridion that we've been working on closely over the last couple of years. And let's go forward, not back. Arno, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Arno van Eynelt. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Tridion Sites, working out of Amsterdam, and have been with RWS, previously SDL, for over 9 years now. Yeah, so happy to be here again, and just want to make sure that we also move on to introduce Philippe.
Good. Thank you, Arno. My name is Philippe Conil. Hello, everybody. I'm a solutions consultant with RWS. I've been with former SDL since 2008. I'm based in France and doing product demonstrations and presentations to our customers most of the time to explain what we do. So nice to be here.
Thanks, Philippe and Arno. That's great. So this question, we're about future-proofing our content, and you might think, well, okay, that's just a marketing buzzword. It's the kind of thing you hear a lot. But actually, in the work I've done with content teams, and actually being, so leading the tech kind of function for a content team before in HTC, it's a very, very relevant question, actually, that in that position, we're always asking ourselves to say, we don't know, you know, the nature of the channels we're delivering to, the touch points, the expectations on the kind of appropriateness of the content. Is it relevant? Is it the right thing? Is it getting the customer to their right destination? All of this just seems to be accelerating. And so when you're in that position in a content team, you're constantly asking yourself this question: am I ready for the future? What's my senior management going to ask me to do now? Am I set up to do that? Or is it going to be a frantic scramble on top of what I already have? So as I was talking about, you know, these expectations, we hear a lot about them. Here's some typical ones, just like you read through these for a minute. So this is a lot of what we hear, you know, people expecting to view the content and get ever more use out of it and for it to be more friendly. So let's try and get a bit more specific, though, because, again, there's a lot of buzzwords on these slides. So something you may well have heard a lot of, these demands for content to be kind of flexible and suitable to the user's context. Often it's called intelligent content. So let's define this. Intelligence, first of all, the ability to learn or understand or deal with new or trying situations. So we get the idea from this that it's something that is actually flexible. It's not like a kind of monolithic thing that is just for one purpose. You're able to use it for different things. Now, here's a more classic definition of intelligent content as such, often defined as something like the right content to the right person at the right time on the right device in the language of their choice, which really says along all of these different dimensions, it needs to be the right thing that customers are getting. So again, it's very, very purposeful, contextual. It's for a reason. It's not like you could look at a website and simply say this is or isn't intelligent content, probably, unless you have a purpose in mind and you see whether it's meeting that purpose. So let's define it maybe in a different way as well. Slice this down. What isn't intelligent content? And I think we can say the old style of delivering some content as kind of big PDFs. So I've got a catalog here and other things. I would have to trawl through that catalog to find exactly the thing that's right for me. It would take me time. It's probably not that searchable. So this isn't terribly intelligent, I would say. Also, if the content simply isn't viewable on the channel of your choice, that's also not too intelligent. So here am I, it's iPhone 8, I think I got this off, so reasonable phone, and yet this site simply can't be viewed on it. So that's a problem, not too intelligent. I hope people will excuse me for calling this kind of dinosaur intelligence. It's just not really there at all. So it can't be that. It also, though, we've said kind of monolithic big documents. You can go to the opposite extreme and saying you're slicing your content to such a tiny kind of degree that it loses all sense of context. Like, how can I switch between home screens? Yes, it answers the question, but it doesn't answer anything about why would I want to do so? You know, what's the context for this? What are the benefits of having multiple home screens? So it's kind of almost robotic in this sense. And then the familiar kind of thing. Let's say we're trying to be intelligent in terms of personalization, pick the right recommendations for you. And I think many of us have had this experience that we've kind of bought something on Amazon or a store like this, and for the next several weeks, we get recommended exactly the same thing or variations of the same thing to buy. So there's some kind of intelligence at work, but it's kind of almost robotic or alien, I would say. So that's not it either. And then what about when you have your content that's kind of sliced up in the right kind of shape already, so it's quite purposeful, and yet it just seems disconnected from the user's actual intent and purpose. So you've got the kind of ingredients there. So for example, this is where I was looking up information to take the family back to Taiwan to see our in-laws there. I found the legal information, and yet there was no kind of connection, no automatic links or anything to the other information on how to make my journey easier with the family. So it felt very disconnected, as if I was seeing the different silos within this organization, and they weren't linking up for a joined-up customer experience. Also, in a simpler kind of way, looking for some information on the Federal Trade Commission website about anti-competitive practices. It's the kind of content that a lot of our customers, particularly in Tridion Docs, might be looking for. And I can't find anything here. I should be able to, but I can't. And it turns out that it's only when I remove the space from this search query that it will find exactly the thing I need. So I kind of have to know their internal language, their way of defining things, before I can find the content. So again, not really joined up. It's kind of in the right shape, but it hasn't gone that last mile to join things up and make a nice experience. It's kind of pre-intelligence, we might call it. So what do we replace this with to make true intelligent content? How do we fix it? First of all, the thing about monolithic big documents, so both Tridion sites with the component approach, Tridion docs with the topics, the kind of granular modules. Of course, we've got this way to work with much more targeted chunks of content that is a real basis for delivering nice experiences in different channels. Then about this kind of robotic intelligence, let's instead keep humans making the key decisions, but scale up kind of human efforts to make them easier. And Arno is going to talk more about this later. How do we actually do that in practice? But let's not make it feel like a robotic kind of experience. And then about this thing where we're kind of almost there in terms of purposeful content, but it's really not joined up in a kind of a linked way. We're seeing the gaps still. So we need to empower these human decisions and this experience with knowledge. So another big word, another big buzzword. Let's now jump to something quite technical in a way, which is about how we start to do that. Because this whole launch, this whole thing that we're talking about here is based on a certain set of standards. Used to be called semantic web. Now we're talking about knowledge graphs and so on, but they're based around modern kind of standardized ways to treat knowledge and the way that we link kind of ideas and concepts to our actual content. So how do we go about that? So at a very basic level, funnily enough, you start with the language itself, which has the clues to the important things to map together things for a better customer experience. So we looked at that thing on anti-competitive practices. That's obviously a key important term that organization to be tracking. Here I've got some more technical ones. So I've got concepts around kind of booting, launching, bringing up, power on, which is not quite the same thing, but they're related. So I'm starting to collect the key ideas that are important to me. And I'm going to start to build a knowledge model based on these that I can use to map together my content and make a smoother experience. What we do next is identify these key concepts in a machine recognizable way. And when we're working the SCORS standard simple knowledge organization system, which is the basis of the features and services we're introducing today, the way that I identify things is with a unique identifier to that concept. So it's not any one of those language labels. I'm saying all of these things come together and mean the same as this concept, which is really important, because then Even basic things, finding that anti-competitive practices. If I can understand there are different ways to spell that, maybe different names for the same thing, I can map them together and I can get that customer to where they need to be easily. And then finally, it's not about isolated little ideas, it's about linking them all together. First of all, understanding how these ideas themselves relate together, how do the labels relate to the core concepts. But then you go bigger and you say, well, this is like, you can call this a taxonomy. It's like a modern standard taxonomy, but it's still a taxonomy, a list of important stuff and its relationships. Then you have to actually map that to your content to build a true knowledge graph. And that's what gives you an incredible amount of kind of future-proofing. So back to the point of the presentation, the future-proofing in the sense that whatever experiences you want to deliver, whether it be better search, whether it be better personalization, whether it be actually outputting to more channels such as chatbots and so on, more contextual delivery, even down to the way that you handle the content from all sorts of disparate sources, not all authored in Tridion perhaps, but maps from different sources and brought together as a united customer experience. This knowledge model that we've built is the foundation for doing all of this. So we'll be able to talk more about this over the coming months, more about how that all works from a more technical point of view. But I just wanted to lay out this kind of big vision of what we're doing and what's driving it. So Arne, would you be able to take over and tell us a little bit more about what's coming out?
I hope this works. So thank you, Joe. Joe just explained some of the concepts that actually lay the foundations of Semantic AI and why we think semantic technology is the way forward to future-proof your content and data with Tridion as the intelligent content platform. So with the release of Tridion Sites 9.6 and Tridion Docs SP4, 14 SP4, we're introducing semantic AI features. And Tridion is basically the first to market with fully integrated and truly future-proof modern semantic technology for content management systems. And we'll gladly show you today what it actually means. So our semantic AI offering exists out of three key features. First, we have smart tagging, taxonomy space, and then semantic search. Smart tagging is the capability for editors and authors to get tagging suggestions based on the content that is being authored. And NLP algorithms analyze the content and concepts in the available taxonomy and will suggest the best matches for tags on this content fragment. Editors and authors will always have the final decision of which tags will be associated with the content fragments by manually adding and removing concepts as they see fit. Taxonomy space is the user interface to the taxonomy management capability. And this is where you create and manage your concepts and manage labels and relationships between the concepts in a taxonomy. That then can be used in Tridion for tagging content. And the third one, semantic search, is the capability where an end user can more easily find the content they're looking for by using search suggestions for the search keywords that they're typing in the search bar. And this will match synonyms and other related terms. And in addition, the end user will be able to dynamically filter and use search facets to drill down into the search results to find what he or she was looking for even faster. So what's that product offering? What does it exactly look like? Well, we have a software as a service add-on package that works with both the on-premise and our cloud Tridion Sites and Tridion Docs releases, the most recent ones, so Tridion Sites 9.6 and Tridion Docs 14 SP4. It will include all those current features that I just talked about, so smart tagging, semantic search, and taxonomy space, and it will include some setup services to get you going. And because this is all fully integrated into the products, we will provide full support basically out of the box there. But now it's time to do a demo. So we'll be switching over to Philippe, and he will show how all of this actually comes together in the actual products.
All right, thank you, Arno. So let's have a quick look at an example of how to leverage semantic search capabilities in Tridion in general, so Tridion Sites and Tridion Docs combined. So here I have an example insurance website that we can look at and browse and this fictitious insurance company has many products in this case to promote, and some of the products can be quite complex or take some time to grasp and understand for certain customers, visitors. There are some specific terms, terminologies around the business, the insurance business in general, that you need to grasp, and people call things differently as well in those terms. So what we want to do is improve the experience or make it easier for consumers, but also employees, partners, to find the relevant content they're looking for in a quicker way. So as a consumer, for example, here I could browse this website entirely and try to find the information that I'm looking for, or I have the option to go and run a search, and that's where using semantic search capabilities we can actually make it easier for those users to find the content they're looking for, in the sense that when you start typing a search phrase or a few search terms, we can actually use semantic search to give us recommendations, give us suggestions in terms of related concepts to our search term. So here, if I look for car, I'm going to find synonyms because in the taxonomy, as Joe and Arnold explained, we can define the terminology, the controlled vocabulary surrounding the insurance business or that particular insurance brand, and all the concepts revolving around their products and services. And maybe there's a best way to call an automobile or vehicle, and you can call this in a standardized way, and actually still in the taxonomy define the corresponding synonyms and related terms defining that concepts of a vehicle. And that helps to basically get to the same content in different ways, in different different terms that relate to the same concept. So that makes it easier, instead of having to find a full text exact match with the keyword entered. We can actually find related concepts and suggest those to the visitor so that they can kind of control their journey better and really personalize their own journey as they go. So I like that concept, because then we can see here when I select one of these concepts, which was auto, even though I started typing car, I can find relevant search results, but also refine them with the facets, as Arno mentioned. So we have those different dimensions related to our content, and we can narrow down our search results. So if I have thousands of results, I can then define my goal in my current visitor journey or employee journey, whatever the case is, and actually define my goal. Like, what do I want to do here is maybe get a quote. In that case, I just select, okay, I just want to get a quote. I'm in the dimension of the auto concept. So that means I'm going to find relevant pages and content to start and get a quote very quickly. So in a couple of clicks, I can get exactly to relevant content that I'm looking for. Now, if I would do the same search, but take a different route, maybe I select roadside assistance, then I'm going to find the relevant article as well for roadside assistance, etc. So that's quite handy to get faster to indeed the content I'm looking for. If I'm in a different context, let's say I had an accident or something like that, and something happened to my car, I want to file a claim, I can type file a claim, I get a related concept. And here the scope might be broader as well. Like I'm filing a claim, but there are many products and services that the insurance company offers around car insurance, business insurance, building insurance, home insurance, etc. So I can actually control the journey again here and narrow it down to maybe property in that case. And then I say, okay, I'm actually, if I had a car accident, I would select car. If I have a home flood or some damage in my house, I can select property and then quickly narrow down to the right content that I'm looking for. So that's the first step, just to give you a quick example. Then if we look at the employee's journey, we could actually reuse the same search interface or the same search experience. And for logged in users, actually also provide semantic search capabilities to get employees more proficient or faster, more productive, etc. I need to go to my, so I'm too fast here. I have different pages. Go, so if I log in as an employee, let's say I'm an insurance agent, for example, and a customer is opening a case. I need to help them as quickly as possible. Now I have access to different policies, procedures around the insurance contracts and so forth. And I can then search for different things, maybe a contract or policy, procedures, etc. And I will get those suggested concepts as well as I type. I type injury, and maybe my customer had an accident. I have to help them find the right policy for them. And similarly here, I can find docs content in this case. Previously, we were seeing primarily marketing content coming from sites, and here we are seeing more policies, procedures, content published from Tradian Docs into the Tradian digital experience delivery platform. And we make it easy for the employees there to find the relevant policy, procedure again. And they can still use facets to narrow down the search results if it's not directly what they're looking for. And also we can have the dimension of the audience. So that means you could also map content to a certain audience and have secured content, or just narrow it down even further through the audience filter, or still make available the consumer content to your employees, for example, if some of these articles or blog entries or product descriptions are relevant for them. Anyway, here I can choose bodily injury and find the actual policy, procedure, content that I'm looking for to help my customer much quicker. And also we can provide related content. So based on the knowledge graph or the taxonomy that we would define, we can then query the content based on those related concepts to find related content. So how does that come about? How do we configure this or set this up in the system? So we have a few options here. I'll focus on Tradian Sites first, where we talked about smart tagging. So this is based on a taxonomy model that I'll show you in a couple of minutes as well. And that gives you, once you have that centralized taxonomy definition, to actually classify content holistically in Tradian Sites and Docs with the same set of terminology and concepts. So you start to have a really good controlled vocabulary around your business, and you can use that directly in the tool to efficiently tag content automatically with AI. So let's look at that, how it works. So here, if I select multiple items in Tradian Sites, I have a few components here about insurance. I can actually look at the content as well. And I can simply right-click and auto-classify this content if I want to bulk tag items. So here, if we select a single item, you can see the content right away. So this one is about motorcycle insurance, for example, and we have different definitions there, what the insurance covers, etc. And if we look at the metadata, this is typically where we would classify the content with the different facets or dimensions defining the intelligence or bringing the intelligence to this content. And here it's empty, right? So I don't want that. I want to classify my content. So I can do this either manually or automated, or a combination of both. So I can, again, right-click, auto-classify from here to, so that's going to talk to the knowledge graph, finding, analyzing the content with natural language processing, text mining, and giving me relevant taxonomy tags to apply to the content. So they're already applied there automatically, but I can refine those as well. So here, if I open this item specifically, I can then look in the metadata and make modifications as I see fit. So I had, quite a few items here, and I just want to keep things simple in that case, so I can narrow it down to just a few terms that are relevant to me, and I can also add additional ones if I want to. So here you can see the manual aspect where you can start typing something, contact details, for example. You can quickly select that and add the tags that you want in those particular facets or dimensions. So here, I'm just going to narrow it down to just a few items and finish my changes. Similarly here, I went a bit fast, but you also have a suggest tags button if you want to. Just like I did the auto-classify, I used the auto-classify option. You can use the suggest tag button from here to update the fields as well, which is very nice to use. It will tell you which fields are updated so that you can narrow it down or improve the classification as you see fit. What I can do with this is actually publish this content now to my website. So I'll just go ahead and publish this. So this article will go ahead and move to the digital experience delivery. And based on the classification, this can also update. So we have Elasticsearch where we store the knowledge graph and the classifications around the content for being able to provide suggested terms and so forth. And here, once I have published, I can go back to my search experience, go back here, sign out. And now I have model cycle, which was not there before, but I can then start searching for this concept and find the content we just published right now. So you can hopefully see the link between creating the content, classifying it, publishing it to make it available to your various experiences. And again, this is just a web experience, but it could be a mobile app or a voice assistant, chatbot, etc., where you're pushing that content towards. Similarly, in Treating Docs, we have classification or auto-tagging capabilities in different flavors. So we have it here in collective spaces where I can select a particular topic and again suggest tags through AI to get those recommendations or classifications automatically added. And similarly, as before, as in Treating Sites, we have here in Treating Docs the same nice user-friendly way to navigate through the knowledge graph and select particular topics or concepts, sorry, to apply to the topic. But you can also use bulk tagging in Publication Manager. So I can select here in Publication Manager. For the tech writers controlling the documentation and the policies and procedures, you can select multiple topics and apply tags right here. So it's going to be doing that in the background and tagging content automatically. And also you can do it from XML editors such as Oxygen and XMetal to add tags automatically and refine them manually as well as we've seen before. So if I open a particular policy topic, I can then go into the taxonomy tab and again get suggestions or navigate here into my goals and then start typing something, maybe claim, how to file a claim, etc. So I can really easily classify content quite effectively using the platform, and the way it's defined, the way you define the taxonomy is using taxonomy space. So here in taxonomy space, we can see the overall taxonomy structure, and we can enrich it. It can be multilingual as well, as you can see here, and we can navigate through the different concepts that are defining, again, the business, the controlled vocabulary of the business. You can have relationships between those concepts as well to create the knowledge graph aspect. So we can move around, see the different alternative labels also, so different ways to call certain things and objects and concepts. And also what's interesting is that the tool can help you to define that taxonomy itself. So we have the corpus management. So I'm going a little bit into the weeds here, but I find it quite powerful where with machine learning and again, text mining, natural language processing, we can process multiple documents and you can actually upload your documents there. You can parse websites from here. So I can add actual files, Word documents, PDFs, etc., that I want to analyze. I can paste text or crawl a particular website, and it's going to find the relevant terms and extract the concepts from all these documents that you upload. And you can therefore enrich your knowledge graph, enrich your taxonomy with the extracted terms. You can see the relevance score, how many times it appears, etc. And you can therefore select maybe some concepts and add them as candidates to be incorporated into your knowledge graph. So that's also very powerful. So you have all these features, also supporting open source taxonomies, Eurovoc and SCOS type of open source taxonomies that you can start from instead of starting from scratch, and enrich them as you go with your own documents, with your own data. And then, as we've seen before, apply that to your content, publish it out, and enrich your digital experiences or search experiences for your users this way. Final note before I hand it over to Arno is that we also have a GraphQL API for search, and that's what we've been using in the front-end experience here on the website. We use the GraphQL API behind the scenes, and you can call that API from different channels and frameworks as well. So that's quite handy to get the suggestions, the dynamic facets, and the search results programmatically, so that your developers can build powerful experiences with our tools. So I hope that's somewhat clear. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Arno, back to you.
All right, thank you, Philippe, for that demonstration. I hope that actually brought it very much to life to the audience. So I wanted to move on, looking at this slide that provides an overview of all the goals that we've set for our Semantic AI vision. And to recap what Philippe just has shown, these three are now available with the release of True Insights 96 and True Docs 14 as before. Right, so the findability, the author-editor productivity, and the future-proofing content and your data. Findability with semantic search, right? Understanding users' intent and connecting that to concepts within the taxonomy. The author and editor productivity with smart tagging capabilities that help tag your content accurately and easily, while still having full control over the outcome. And the general future-proofing of your content and data by use of semantics. But I do want to talk a little bit more about, the next steps in the vision and the associated research that we're doing to address personalization and guided journeys. So in essence, there are multiple layers and levels of maturity of an organization to personalization. And if you look beyond just the labor-intensive prescriptive personalization rules, there are additional stages to personalization where value can be added for the end user quite quickly and easily. On the very left in this graph, in essence, this starts with the situation where you do not know a lot about your visitor. Where you turn on the very right, you know exactly who you're dealing with, and you can tailor things, your content even more. But personalization with semantic intelligence is a low risk approach, which allows you to add additional fine-tuning steps when you're actually ready for that. So let's dive into that a little bit more. With semantic intelligence, you rely on the relationships that can be identified between content fragments. And these algorithms are connecting content based on a similarity. For example, with certain user goals or where in the world the user lives, or in addition, just filtering by user role. And people who have been viewing the same content as you are now, that's something that falls under the co-browsing technique. So people who have been viewing the same content as you are now have probably viewed other content fragments as well. And your recommendations are then based on what other content fragments those people have been viewing. And for the last technique, there's the training technique, which is basically about showing content that has been very popular in general with other visitors during a specific time period. So more advanced scenarios can be applied when you know more about the visitor For instance, if you have session data of the visitor that can be used to identify visitors' interest, this way certain content can be recommended or actually filtered out based on the likes or dislikes of like-minded visitor groups. And the contextual bandit uses explicit known visitor data to recommend content fragments. This could be support or knowledge base article based on previous purchases, or perhaps recommended accessories for that product. So these are all concepts that we're researching right now, and I hope in the near future we can actually show you more concretely what it will mean for the next developments in the products. And for the longer term future, we also keep developing semantic technologies for trading. So measuring outcomes is all about providing the user with meaningful insights, using semantic technology to give meaning to the data that the content management system already has, actually. You can think of answering questions on whether the project the projected return on investment is actually being achieved by increasing content reuse when using a product, or providing better insights in how well your content is performing. So which content fragments are not being viewed at all? Are there improvements we can make to the content to make it more search engine optimized and friendly, etc. And basically linking that back directly back to the content fragments in the content management system, so that the content team can directly take action on those. So hope that gave you a flavor of what's coming in the future. So we will have Q&A in a minute. So if you have any questions, start typing them in the chat right now. But before that, I wanted to let you know about the different data sheets that we have available right now. First of all, we have the Trillion Semantic AI datasheet that explains the offering for both products. And then we have the separate Trillion Sites 96 and Trillion Docs 14 SP4 datasheets as well. So download them now. And after the Q&A and the break, we'll also have a session with Florian Bauer from Semantic Web Company, who will talk more on knowledge graphs and semantics. So make sure to watch that as well. So let's move on to Q&A. Joe, you're muted, but I think one of the first question was about how much time it would take, or how much time actually goes into creating a knowledge graph or taxonomy that supports all these features. Is there something you might be able to talk to?
Yeah, happy to give a go. And for this one, I'm probably going to get my old consultant's hat back on and give that classic answer to say it depends, right? But let me try and be a bit more useful. I think there's different ways to look at that, as in you can get started actually really very quickly. I mean, I could imagine maybe 2 weeks for a kind of a skeleton thing that you can start playing with, start seeing some results and so on. And in the other sense, it's never finished because you're always improving this thing. It's not like you build a taxonomy 1 year and you're done for 5 years, because real life changes. The terms that people use in real life change, and you know, the things that your organization is talking about change, and so you have to keep it alive in that way. So narrowing this down, how do you start, which is also important for this? You always start with user needs, right? You never think like, oh my goodness, I've got to kind of catalog everything I have like some huge library. No, you start with user needs. What are the users trying to do? Where are they? With what products or information and so on? You categorize that, you find your main dimensions of that, and you start to get some of them down. And, you know, people use Post-its, whiteboards, all sorts of stuff like that. You can get a leg up because there are standards, as Philippe mentioned. There are often quite standard taxonomies for certain industries. In fact, you might actually be required to use certain standard taxonomies, and so you can easily import those, but you'll always want to trim them down to suit your purposes. You know, it's very rare that you would use something like, say, Eurovoc, which Philippe showed briefly, and just use the whole thing. Rather, you're going to pick the bits that are relevant, but by using that standard, it always maps to, you know, the way that other organizations are using it too. So always shape it to the needs. And of course, there's always help available. So our own services folk can certainly help you set up a taxonomy and think through all of this at whatever stage you are. We've also got great partners, Enterprise Knowledge and others, Semantic Web Company themselves, who, by the way, providing some of the core tech, and it's a very rewarding strategic partnership we have with them to help to drive these features, but they can also help you with the kind of soft side of building taxonomies as well. So I would say you can get started quickly, 2 weeks to a month to get something you're working with and seeing some results, but on the other hand, it's something you've got to keep tweaking over time.
All right, great. Then I see another question coming in about training. Do you need to train the auto tagging setup with previously tagged content? Well, interesting question again, and I think it kind of goes back a little bit to what Philippe was showing as well. I mean, we don't have a full black box approach, right? It's always that use an end user or knowledge graph engineer will be in charge, but the corpus analysis will help to learn from content that you actually submitted, right? So it will help you find those relevant concepts that you might want to add to your taxonomy that you didn't have before, and those kind of things. So there's definitely a way to help you along. Joe already mentioned that there's some default taxonomies that can get you set up early, right? And you can expand from there easily with this kind of technology. So that's very useful. Let me see if there's some other
So a
questions
couple of
coming
good
in.
questions there that really get to the heart of how this all works. I mean, they almost need a whole presentation in themselves to answer, but I hope that we've given some good pointers.
Okay.
Fantastic. So it seems like that's good. Hopefully given everybody some things to think about here. Good. So I think there's a networking break coming up. Is that right, Arno?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a networking break. We'll be browsing around as well. So if you have any questions there, feel free to ping us there, and make sure to watch Florian's session after the break. So thank you all.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.